And there it is, check it out. It's already on GP. Welcome back to the mini vlog in the mini garage again for another week. Last week we used BeamerLink and our OBD2 dongle to show you how to use the BeamerLink app to show you some more data on your car. Today we're gonna go a little bit fancier with the Passenger Sport Display from Autosonus. It's the one that you see that sits in the passenger side dash, and it shows a bunch of information about the car. Very similar to the BeamerLink app. So let's go ahead and get right into this install. So yeah, here we are. We're gonna take out this passenger dashboard, which is gonna be really tough to do, as you can imagine, because it's 0001 3D printed on there. Pretty special number, especially to me. But in order to install this screen that we got sent over from Autosonus for us to show you how to install it and how it works, we gotta remove it. So we're gonna start by removing some of the central infotainment system so we can get over to the vent, then we can get over to the passenger dashboard, remove all that. Then we'll put the screen in and show you how to wire it up and show you how it works. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Okay, to start, we're gonna remove the clips from below the center infotainment system. You can see them down here. Let's pry those out. Whoops. There's the second one. Let's pull that out of the way. So we got both clips out from the bottom. So now we're gonna try and remove the trim around the infotainment center. And it's got some pretty hard clips in there. Got the bottom ones off. Let's see if we can work these top ones. And be careful not to break the lights on the inside. There are two clips at the top that I gotta get to. There we go. This right angle tool really helped get those clips. Got two at the top. So now that we've got that off, let's get that out of the way. We're going to need to remove the two screws that are at the bottom of the infotainment system, and for that we are going to use a T20 Torx bit. Now these screws will come all the way out, so just be careful when they fall out. You want to try and catch them, or maybe they'll fall into the cup holder, but don't lose them because you will need them. So for our next step, we need to remove this subwoofer cover, or what would be a subwoofer cover, but there's not a subwoofer in the GP3, to get to a tab so that we can release this center console out. So we're going to pop this out, again using the plastic pry tools. Get down in there and just gotta force it hard. You'll hear it start to release. Just clips holding this in all around it. So that's out. We now have access to the top. So once we're in here, we have two holes. One is for the clip that holds in that cover, and then this other one is for you to press down into and release a clip that's holding in the top of this infotainment system. I've seen people use screwdrivers. I don't like to use metal on the plastic because it can scrape it up. So I'm gonna use a plastic pry tool, a thin one that I broke in the end off accidentally. I'm gonna go down into that hole, and you can't see it, but you can feel, I don't know if you can see the springy resistance of this pry tool. So if I press it down and pull the top of the infotainment center, it starts to release. So I got that clip to press, pull it out. As you can see, the side has started to come. Pull a little bit more. There are two spring clips that are holding it in, and that's the one clip that we were depressing down as we were going through that hole up there. So now we've got this kind of out of the way. Very carefully set it over to the side. So now we're gonna grab the screw that's holding in this vent. Again, another T20 Torx bit. Be very careful not to drop this one down into the ether. So let's go ahead and remove that. Don't lose this screw. We'll set it in a cup holder. Now we should be able to take out this passenger side vent. That screw is holding it in. And now, the saddest part of this install, we're gonna remove the passenger side dash. And it's just, again, 4 spring clips that are holding it in here. So it's just gonna take a little bit of pressure to pull it out. There's one side. So I'm gonna use this right angle one again. I'm gonna go up underneath, get up behind that, and that'll help me kind of put some pressure on that spring in the bottom right to pull it out. There, I got the bottom one out. Now I just need to pull out that top one. There we go. And there is GP00001. We're gonna find a good place to set that. But now we have access to the area that we need to install our sport display. So let's go ahead and go out to the bench and get that set up so we can install it. So what we need to do here is we need to take these metal spring clips off the back of this beautifully printed 0001 and put them onto the corresponding parts of this sports display. So I'm gonna do this right now. You could probably do this later on after you've done the wiring, but I'm gonna do it now since I still have this display covered in a nice protective plastic. So just pry these off. So to remove these clips, they do have barbs on the inside that are gonna go against you. So you kind of gotta open them up a bit in order to release those barbs. So we're gonna try and do that. I'll stick a finger under here. I'm sure you could use a pry tool as well, but I'm gonna try it with just my finger. I've opened it up and it kind of pops up a little bit, and now I can take that off. So we've got all 4 clips off of this. We've got to find a very safe place to keep this for the time being. And we're just gonna take these clips and we're gonna put them onto the sport display. Okay, so to start, we're gonna pull up the bottom right corner of this door sill trim. Pull that up, and that's gonna give us access to get to this footwell trim that has the wires we need. So we're gonna start down here, the bottom right, get that first clip started, and then you hear that. And then I can get my fingers underneath. I'm gonna pull straight up to pull those clips straight out. So I'm gonna pull straight up, work my way along. So as you can see, only one of those clips came out the way that we wanted it to. And the rest of them are still stuck in the door sill itself. So we'll use our pry tool to pull those out and then slide them into the slots before we reinstall that. So now we got the sill trim up, we're gonna get to this footwell trim here. We can get access. I can just start to pull it. I don't think I need a pry tool for this one. Pull it forward, out of the way. There's one clip, other clip, and there should be one more up at the top. It takes a little bit because there's a clip way up there that you got to get. But once we got all 3 out, we can get that trim out of the way. And now we have access to the wires that we need to get to. So let's go ahead and get into the hard stuff of wiring this up. All right, so now that we got the cover off, we're gonna go ahead and remove this black plug up here in the top. Don't remove the one on the bottom, learn from experience. Remove the top one up here, the black one, which is the 3rd one in this GP. In some models, you might have all 4 of these banks full. We only have 3 in this one. So we're gonna take out that black one. Okay, so now we are gonna take our connectors out of our housings by the little pry tool. There's a little clip on the side holding them in, as you can see that. So we will get that started. We want to go for the gray one, so we'll get the black one started, which should allow us to get to the gray one. There we go. Set the housing aside. So once we have this out, we're gonna go after four wires, and they're both paired together. So we're gonna go for the white and purple here, and then this gray and blue. And in some cases, this blue might be a little more green pastel-y looking, but it's basically these 2 pairs, white, purple, gray, blue, right next to each other. And to do that, we're gonna use this small tool to just kind of push in the little clip here that is gonna allow us to pop that wire right out. So if we push that in, so we push in the clip and we pull out the wire, just like that. So now we take our harness and our blank clip. We make sure our blank clip, it only goes in one way, so we wanna just kind of test that. And we wanna line up our wires that we put into our blank clip with the wires coming out of the harness. So we have the white, purple, gray, and green, which on here it's a little more blue. We're gonna start with white, and we see that we want that at the top of the clip. We make sure that the clip is open, and we push in till we hear it click into there. And then we'll take the other end of our harness. It has the 4 corresponding colors. And so for this case, we want white, and we're just gonna replace it where the white wire was. Again, we want the clip facing up into the open slot, and we'll push it in until we hear it click. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to the purple. Again, we want to make sure it's in the appropriate place, and in this case, it's the second one, it's after the white one. So we go to our blank plug, put it in below the white one. Take our corresponding piggyback harness and put that in. Make sure the clip is pointed up. Okay, now we're after this gray wire, which is tucked behind here. So it might be a little more difficult to get to. Let me see if I can pry it out a little bit so I can get a better grip on it. All right, there's my gray wire. Got it. Okay, we've got the gray one out. Let's check again. Yeah, that's the third wire in this clip. So we put that gray one in. We'll take our gray piggyback harness and we will put that into the open slot. So for the last one, we're after the green wire. And as you can see in the GP harness, it's blue. So it's just a different one, different color. In the installation video and on other models, I think that should be more of this green color, but it's next to the gray wire that we're looking at. So we're going based off a location. So let's give it a try and see if it works. So going for that one, pushing in the clip, and we'll pull up the wire at the same time as we push in that clip. Sometimes when you're pulling, the clip gets past the opening and then gets stuck on the second lip here. So we use the pry tool to just to press that clip again, and then we can pull it out like that. So now we plug it in to the last port in our empty clip. And now we can cinch these down by closing this clamp off. Before we forget, we'll plug in our green to that empty slot. Till we hear it clip into place. And now we can plug clip into here. And let's put this back together and plug it back in to the car. So we'll slide our two clips back into their harness, and we will push that back into here and slide our lever down to lock it in place. So our harness is like this. So now that that's in there, next we're gonna go on to the power for this unit. So next we gotta remove this cover down here so we can get to a place to screw our ground into, and then also run the wires up behind the glove box and up into the fuse panel, and then up to our dash ultimately. So there are two bolts down here that we need to remove this panel. Be careful, in this model there is the knee or foot airbag, so you don't wanna get that by accident. So there's two screws. I'm gonna show you to take those out really quick, and then we'll run our wires up. Okay, now we're up underneath our glove box here. Again, don't hit this. This is the airbag. We need to take our negative and we're going to put it up underneath here, underneath this screw. So we take our torque spit. We now have to switch to a T30 to loosen this up. So this is actually holding that airbag in place. So be careful as usual. We'll loosen it up, push up a little bit, and we can slide this clip up underneath there. Now we will just tighten that back up. Okay, so to run the wire nicely, we need to pop off this side panel, which is just on the side of the right passenger vent. And it should just be a quick pry tool. Yep, a few clips. And it's out of the way. And now we can run our display wire up through here and in to this cavity where we need it to go. So here is our cable, and we need to get it into here, which is basically through this cavity here. So we will run it up through here, and if I just reach through, I can grab it and pull it through. So we'll tidy our wire up. We'll leave that hanging there. Tidy our wire up here. Just like that, so it's out of the way. Next, we just need to plug this fuse in here, which is through access through the glove box. And we have this little access panel. Notice there's nothing in the glove box to save on weight. We'll remove the access panel. And there are our fuses. And I read before that the base, I think it's 61 right here, is where our infotainment system is. So we're going to use that bay. The fuse panel comes with a fuse puller right here, this little red thing. You got the big side for the big ones and the small side for the little ones. So we'll take out our infotainment fuse right there. Now we'll run past our fuse up from underneath, and then we'll take our fuse and we will put that in there. And we'll put it right back in the same spot it was before. Now in here, this valves up on a piece of plastic above it, so it doesn't go in all the way in this GP, but I think it'll still work. It's in there pretty well, and we know if everything shuts down, that's because that fuse, that wire fell out. So now we have everything wired. We can put our screen in, plug it in, and test it out. Okay, so we have our screen. We can remove the plastic ASMR, and we will take our connector and plug it in like so, and we'll tuck that in there, and we have the clips on the back already, so we will just clip it into place. And before we put everything back together, let's do a quick test by powering on the car to see if it powers up. And there it is, check it out. It's already on GP. And now let's go ahead and take all these trim pieces and put them back into place. So we have the sill trim here, and when we take it out, not all these clips come out with it. Maybe you know a better way to do it, but I don't. So I remove these clips and I slide them into their housing so that they go in here like this. And then we just make sure that they are all in the right spot so that when we go to put them in, they're lined up with the corresponding holes. And of course, we got to start with the back to tuck that in up underneath. All right, everything's put back together. It's now in. Let's fire it up and see how it looks. Check that out, that's really cool. So let's go ahead and take it for a drive. I'm gonna show you some of the features, how you can change the logos and how you can power it off if you don't want it on. So let's do it. So yeah, on the screen, we have a bunch of information. Starting from the left, we have the boost pressure. Then we have the engine oil temperature, the water temperature. A pretty cool thing here, I've never seen this before, the exhaust temperature, and that's pretty high, let me tell you. Above that, we have a speedometer, which you can put in kilometers per hour and miles per hour. We have a digital tach, and then we have a bar graph style tach right above that. And what's interesting in this display, something you don't have, or the GP doesn't have in the digital dash, is the marked speed limit on the road, which is obtaining from the GPS information about from the road that you're on. So over there, you can see the little speed limit, which is pretty cool. I like that a lot. And so above the temperature of the exhaust, you have a little logo. In this case, it's a GP, and you can change that to 3 other logos. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then so on the far right side, we have a 3x3 grid of other sensor information. We have the engine's run time for the trip computer for the distance, the outside air temperature. There's the engine load, the ignition timing sensor, the accelerator pedal position, which I think that one's kind of interesting, the air intake temperature, the battery voltage, and finally your fuel levels. So those are the sensors that you have showing up on this passenger sport display. Some of them are pretty cool. Some of them you wouldn't normally see, so I like those. Okay, so to change the logo in the center screen, what you're gonna do is hold down the menu button for 3 seconds, and you can cycle through and see the John Cooper Works logo, the MINI logo, the GP logo, and a British flag. So if you want to turn the screen off while the car is on, all you need to do is hold down the back button for 3 seconds. And if you want to turn it back on, just hold down that button again for another 3 seconds and the screen will come back on. So to put the screen in the acceleration testing mode, you're going to first toggle in to GP mode, at least on the GP car. And then you're going to go down here and hold the menu button for 3 seconds, and then you'll see your screen switch to Excel testing. Yeah, I see it coming in. So to change the display from kilometers per hour to miles per hour, what you need to do is have the car running, open the left door just a little bit, flash the high beams 3 times fast, and if you look over here, you'll now see that I am in miles per hour. All right, and that's going to be the end of this video. It's a little bit of a long one. The install process took a while, but it was super great. I want to thank Autosonus again for sending over this passenger sport display for us to try out. It exceeded all my expectations. It looks really good, and as you can imagine, it was really tough to remove for me to remove this number out of my dash. So the fact that this is a really awesome product really helps. So if you have any questions or comments about this install, leave them down below. I'll try and help out, but I did mess this up the first time, so yeah, take my advice with a grain of salt. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Lets me know that you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, when you see other minis out there, don't forget to wave. I'm gonna go drive this while we got a little bit of sunlight left. And that's your RPM, and that's your engine temperature, and that's your oil temperature, and that's your speed, and that's your PSI.